You ever feel completely stuck? I mean, really genuinely stuck, like you're pushing against a solid wall.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling.
Yeah, that feeling of just frustration.
Right.
Right. Overwhelmed by some problem, maybe wondering why life keeps throwing these curveballs at you.
Mm.
What if?
Mm-hmm.
What if that frustration, that obstacle itself wasn't actually a curse? What if it was something else?
Something useful, maybe.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into an idea that just flips this whole thing on its head. The obstacle is the way.
Ah, yes. Powerful stuff.
We're going to look at how some really remarkable people throughout history face these seemingly impossible challenges. And the key thing is they didn't just get through them, they actually used them.
Use them to achieve incredible things.
Became better because of the adversity, not just in spite of it.
Right. So our mission here really is to unpack the core ideas from, well, it's a body of work drawing heavily on ancient wisdom, mainly Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
And it distills it into these practical strategies you can use today. Think of it as an operating system, sort of, for dealing with the tough stuff life throws at you, which it always does.
Always does.
And we'll look at how these historical folks and ultimately how you, listening, can turn trials into triumphs.
Okay, so let's break it down. We're looking at three main things, these interconnected disciplines. First, how we perceive our problems.
Yeah, perception, crucial.
Second, how we act when we face them.
Action, got it.
And third, how we build up that inner will to endure, and transform them. So, yeah, get ready to maybe rethink setbacks.
No, Dolly.
All right, let's kick things off with that first one, perception. This is all about how we see things, how we understand what's happening, and maybe most importantly, what we decide those events mean.
Right, because that decision, that meaning-making, that's where the power is, or the weakness.
So how does that work in practice? When things go wrong, our instinct is often, well, not great.
No, it's usually panic, right? Fear. And that just completely twists how we see things. But think about John D. Rockefeller. During the Panic of 1857.
Yeah.
So total chaos, people losing everything. But Rockefeller, he stayed incredibly calm. He didn't just see disaster.
What did he see?
He reframed it.
Yeah.
Actively. He saw it as an opportunity to learn, a baptism in the market, he called it. He didn't follow the mad crowd.
Resisted the impulse.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he saw chances to build his fortune, precisely because others were panicking. He had this knack for seeing opportunity in every disaster. It wasn't passive calm. It was like a mental discipline.
That's amazing. But it sounds really hard. I mean, how do you stay objective like that when everything around you is just falling apart? What do you think the trick is?
Well, it's that pause, isn't it? The space between the event and your reaction. Rockefeller did that. He asked, okay, objectively, what are the facts here? What can I actually control?
Right.
What lessons are hidden here? Are there real opportunities? That questioning, that's the key. That's where the calm comes from, I think.
And a big part of that perception is realizing you still have power, right? Even when things look absolutely hopeless.
Absolutely. Even if, your physical freedom is gone, you're never powerless inside. Take Reuben Hurricane Carter.
The boxer, wrongfully imprisoned.
Exactly. For triple homicide, he didn't commit. I mean, talk about a bleak situation. But he refused, absolutely refused, to be treated like a prisoner in his own mind.
How?
He kept control over his attitude, his beliefs, his choices. What did he do? He spent 19 years reading, learning. He came out not just free, but he said, better and improved.
Wow.
His core belief, and this is so powerful, was, this can't harm me. I might not have wanted it to happen, but I decide how it will affect me. Nobody else gets to decide that for you.
That's incredible. It really makes you think how often we just hand over control of our feelings to, whatever happens outside. How does someone keep that inner strength when there's literally zero external hope? What are the steps, day to day?
It's that constant internal conversation, isn't it? Focusing relentlessly on what the Stoics call the dichotomy of control.
What's up to us? What's not up to us?
Exactly. Carter knew his location wasn't up to him, but his response, his inner world, totally up to him. So he chose to work on himself, learn, grow, basically telling the prison walls, you got my body, but not my mind.
Okay, so controlling your inner world. And another piece of this seems to be just staying cool under pressure, steadying your nerve.
Oh, definitely. Grace under pressure. Think about Ulysses S. Grant.
The general, right?
Yeah. There's stories like shards of glass falling around him during a photo shoot or an enemy shell exploding nearby, killing a horse right next to him.
Whoa.
And his eyes just stayed fixed on the front, never leaving the glasses. That kind of tranquil courage, It's not just impressive, it's vital. Panic messes up your thinking. Poise lets you think clearly, act effectively.
That's such a vivid image. And we face our own sort of falling glass moments, don't we? Maybe not shells exploding, but unexpected crises, demanding bosses, whatever. How can we cultivate that unflappable thing Grant had?
Well, it's practice, isn't it? He wasn't born that way. He trained himself.
Yeah.
Exposure, conscious effort. It starts small. Recognizing those first signs of panic in yourself, the racing heart, shallow breath,
Yeah.
and then consciously bringing yourself back. Deep breath, focus. It's like a
What?
muscle, Gets stronger the more you use it.
Okay, so you study yourself like Grant. Then what? The next step seems to be actively changing your perspective.
Yes, because that shift changes everything. Look at Pericles. During the Peloponnesian War, solar eclipse happens. His fleet starts panicking.
Bad omen, right?
Exactly. But Pericles, he doesn't just yell, calm down. He calmly explains it, uses his cloak to show how darkness can be created, breaks
Oh.
down their fear with, rational understanding.
Right.
Or think about George Clooney. He talked about how he used to go into auditions feeling like he was, groveling for a shot.
Yeah, begging for a job.
Right. Then he flipped it. He realized, wait, I'm the solution to their problem.
Yeah.
They need an actor. I might be that actor.
Huge difference.
Huge. Suddenly, he wasn't asking for something. He was offering something. That reframing gave him confidence, power.
So it's not just what your perspective is, but is it actually helping you? How can we actively edit our perception like that to make sure it keeps us calm and ready?
A lot of it is that active self-talk, asking questions. Instead of, this is awful, maybe, okay, what does this make possible? Instead of, I'm screwed, maybe, what choice do I have right now? Clooney's example is perfect, shifting from scarcity, I need this job, to abundance, I have something valuable to offer.
Right. And that leads into this idea of focusing on what is up to you, that Stoic distinction again.
Exactly. To ukehemen, what's in our control, what's not. Tommy John, the baseball pitcher.
The surgery guy.
The surgery is named after him. He had this career-ending arm injury. Doctors gave him a 1 in 100 chance with this experimental surgery. His question wasn't, why me? It was, is there a chance?
Just, is it possible?
Yeah, 1 in 100. Okay, let's go. He focused only on what he could do. The rehab, the effort. It led to Tommy John surgery, and he won 164 more games. He applied that same focus later when his son nearly died. Focus on what you can influence, let go of the rest.
That's basically the serenity prayer, isn't it? Focus your energy only on what you control. Your emotions, your judgments, creativity, attitude, perspective, choices, determination. Everything else, it's just the rules of the game.
Perfectly put. It's the conditions you have to play within.
And another part of this perception piece is living in the present and thinking differently, maybe even a bit counterintuitively.
It is. It's amazing, isn't it, that apparently half the companies in the Fortune 500 were started during a bear market or recession.
Wow, really?
Because the founders were too busy existing in the present. They weren't lost in worry about the big economic picture. They were just focused, intensely focused, on the immediate task, the problem right in front of them.
Not overthinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unlike the overthinking that paralyzes so many of us. And then you have someone like Steve Jobs with his famous reality distortion field.
Right, refusing to hear it can't be done.
Yeah. He pushed those engineers to make an impossible deadline for the first Mac. He showed that our perceptions, especially our belief in what's possible, can actually, shape reality itself.
Okay, so wrapping up this whole perception discipline, what's the takeaway?
It's about cultivating this, ruthless objectivity.
Yeah.
Controlling your emotions, not letting them run the show, actively choosing to see the good, or at least the opportunity.
Studying your nerves.
Ignoring distractions, finding that helpful perspective, living right here, right now.
And focusing only on what you can actually control.
That's it. That's how you find the opportunity hidden inside the obstacle.
Okay, so once we've worked on our perception, started to get a handle on that, it's time for the second discipline, action.
But not just any action, right?
Yeah, definitely not. It's about right action. Action that's directed, persistent, and courageous.
So where do we start with that?
Well, think about Demosthenes. Ancient Athenian guy, born with a really bad speech impediment, and on top of that, he got robbed of his inheritance.
Rough start.
Yeah. But did he just accept it? No way. He literally locked himself underground to train his voice, filled his mouth with pebbles to practice articulation, shouted speeches into the wind to build strength, even shaved half his head so he'd be too embarrassed to go out and get distracted.
Whoa, intense.
Totally. His mantra was basically action, action, action. He didn't just wish things were different. He channeled all that rage and pain into just fierce, relentless training, and guess what?
Became a great speaker.
Became Athens' greatest orator, won back his fortune. He replaced that feeling of being stuck with just deliberate, almost violent effort. And it's not always about locking yourself underground, is it? Sometimes action is just starting. Anywhere.
Exactly. Amelia Earhart. She accepted what was called an offensive proposition back then to be the first woman passenger on a transatlantic flight.
She wasn't even flying the plane.
Only just a passenger. But she knew, once they got started, if they could just get some momentum, they could make it work, get the ball rolling. Her motto was brilliant. Always think with your stick forward. Always be moving, initiating.
Keep moving. And once you are moving, it's about keeping it up, right?
Yeah.
That sustained effort.
Absolutely. Think about Erwin Rommel in North Africa during World War II. His perennial pushing. It was totally different from the more cautious British approach at the time. They actually said, where Rommel is, there's the front, because he never stopped. Always advancing, probing.
Relentless.
Or Grant again during the Vicksburg siege in the Civil War. His persistence wasn't just banging his head against the same wall. He tried everything, kept iterating, kept pushing, until he found a new way around the Confederate defenses. That's often how breakthroughs happen.
Like Edison trying thousands of filaments for the light bulb.
Exactly. 6,000 attempts, apparently. Didn't mean he was failing 6,000 times in a bad way. It proved that genius often really is just persistence in disguise.
Yeah.
It's about just chiseling away relentlessly.
Okay, but that raises a question for me. How do you know the difference between that kind of productive persistence like Edison and just, stubbornly banging your head against a wall that's never going to break? When do you keep chiseling and when do you maybe try a different spot?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's where iteration comes in. This idea that failure is a feature, not a bug.
Like in software development,
Yeah.
minimum viable product.
Exactly. That whole Silicon Valley mindset. Failure isn't something to be ashamed of. It's data. It's feedback. It's an opportunity to learn and improve. The British forces fighting Rommel in North Africa, they learned mostly by failure. But it was kind of acceptable failure because they anticipated a learning curve. They planned for it. Failure shows you very clearly what isn't the way, which helps you find what is.
That's such a powerful way to look at it. Turning failure into just information. Okay, so beyond iteration, you also talk about following a process.
Yeah, this is huge. Coach Nick Saban, the football coach, famous for the process.
Right. Don't focus on winning the championship.
Exactly. Focus on what you needed to do in this drill, on this play, in this moment. Break the huge, scary goal down into tiny, manageable steps. There's another great story about James Pollard Espy, who learned to read really late, like at 18. Henry Clay told him, "You've only got 25 more letters to go."
Makes it sound doable.
Right. It makes even mammoth tasks become just a series of component parts. The process becomes this guiding voice that demands you take ownership, step by step.
It's like if you're stuck in a bad position in jiu-jitsu or something, you don't just flail wildly with brute strength, right? You follow a process, small movements, specific techniques. Even when you feel pinned down, that focus is kind of liberating.
Exactly. And within that process, there's this idea of doing your job, whatever it is, and doing it right, with pride.
Even humble jobs.
Especially humble jobs. President Andrew Johnson started as a tailor. He used to boast, "My garments never ripped or gave way."
Wow.
James Garfield, another future president, paid his way through college as a janitor and eventually became the college dean. And Steve Jobs, learning from his craftsman father, insisted that the inside of Apple products, the parts no one would see, be beautifully designed. Even the back of his cabinets, his dad taught him. It shows respect for the work.
So whatever you're doing, everything is a chance to do your best. Life is asking you a question, and your actions are the answer.
Beautifully put. And sometimes the right action is pragmatic, flexible. What's right is what works. Look at Samuel Zemery, the Banana King.
Okay.
He was up against a giant United Fruit Company. Their lawyers were blocking him from buying land. So what did he do? He just went around them and bought the land from each of them individually.
Oh, snaky.
Or another time, he was forbidden from building a bridge he needed. So he built 2 really long piers out into the water and strung a temporary pontoon between them, called them wharfs. His motto was basically, any way that works. Often that means going around the problem, finding leverage, hitting it from an unexpected angle. Like George Washington in the Revolution, always avoiding the direct fight he couldn't win.
Yeah, the flank attack.
Exactly. Military historian B.H. Liddell Hart studied centuries of battles and found only something like 2% of decisive victories came from direct frontal attacks.
Only 2%. That's crazy. So maybe we spend too much time trying to barge through the front door.
When a back door, the side window, maybe even the chimney is wide open. Sometimes, yeah, the longest way around is the shortest way home.
Okay, so flanking. What else? Can you use the obstacle itself?
Yes, use its energy against it. Think Gandhi's Satyagraha campaign.
Nonviolent resistance.
Right, meaning truth force or soul force, or Martin Luther King Jr.'s strategy. Physical force with soul force. They used non-action or strategically chosen action as a weapon. It forced the authorities into these impossible dilemmas. How do you fight people who won't fight back in the way you expect?
Puts them off balance.
Totally. Or think about how the Russians beat both Napoleon and the Nazis. They didn't necessarily outfight them head-on everywhere. They used the brutal Russian winter. They let the enemy's own advance, their overextension, become their downfall. Let the obstacle do the work.
That's like martial arts, using your opponent's momentum, or like those stories of boat captains using the river current, or Alexander the Grey just staying on his wild horse Bucephalus until it tired itself out.
Exactly. Sometimes standing still, or in some cases even going backward, might be the best way to advance.
Okay, so use the obstacle. What about channeling your own energy?
Crucial. Redirecting internal stuff, constraints, emotions. Arthur Ashe, the tennis player, he played physically loose and mentally tight. He channeled the emotions he had to suppress off-court into this incredibly bold, focused play on-court. Joe Louis, the boxer, the brown bomber. They called him the ring robot because his face was just blank, impassive. He used that stoicism to intimidate opponents, channeling all his focus inward.
Using stillness as a weapon.
Yeah. And then there's seizing the offensive when something bad does happen, turning a setback into an attack. Barack Obama, 2008 campaign, right? This potentially disastrous scandal erupts involving his former pastor.
Yeah, I remember that. Looked really bad.
Could have sunk him. Instead, he gives that amazing, a more perfect union speech on race in America. He didn't just defend himself. He used the moment, the crisis, as an opportunity to seize the electoral high ground.
Turn it completely around.
Exactly. Like Rahm Emanuel famously said, you never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
So the question for us is, what disruptive thing in your life right now could actually be a catalyst? What dormant plan could you finally launch because of this disruption? Life speeds on the bold and favors the brave, as they say.
It really does. You have to see the disruption not just as a problem, but potentially as a starting gun. Ask, okay, this changed things. What's possible now that wasn't before?
Okay, so we've covered a lot on action. Persistence, iteration, process, pragmatism, flanking, using the obstacle, channeling energy, seizing the offensive. Is there a final point here?
Yeah, there is. And it's maybe a bit counterintuitive after all that. It's prepare for none of it to work.
Wait, what? After all that effort?
Well, yeah, because sometimes, despite your best perception, your most heroic action, some obstacles are just immovable, impossible. For you, right now anyway.
So just give up.
No, not give up trying, but accept that the outcome might not be what you wanted. And that's okay. It's not necessarily failure in the grand sense. It becomes an opportunity to practice some other virtue. Maybe it's acceptance, maybe it's humility, maybe it's learning to let go. The point is, nothing can ever prevent us from trying, ever.
Well,
the effort itself has value.
Trying is the victory, in a way.
In a way, yes. We try, we give it our all, and then we accept the verdict and move on. Less martyrdom, more just doing the work and letting the chips fall.
Okay. We've talked perception, we've talked action, but what about when the situation just seems objectively bad, unchangeable, overwhelming? What's left then?
That brings us to the third discipline. And yeah, this is often the hardest one. It's the will, our internal power, our final trump card when everything else seems lost.
The will. Okay. How do we cultivate that?
It starts with building your inner citadel. Think about Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
He struggled his whole life with what they called melancholy, back then, basically. Crippling depression, terrible suffering. But that severe experience, that constant battle within himself, arguably forged the strength he needed to lead the country through the absolute hell of the Civil War.
His suffering prepared him.
In a profound way, yes. His ability to endure, to find meaning even in darkness, that was his real power. Or Theodore Roosevelt, as a kid. Frail, asthmatic. His father told him point blank when he was 12, you have the mind, but you have not the body. You must make your body.
Wow, direct.
Yeah. And TR took it to heart. Feverish daily workouts. He literally built his physical resilience, his inner citadel. And that resilience served him when facing political enemies, crushing personal tragedy, even an assassination attempt later in life. He was ready. because he'd built the foundation.
It sounds like it's not something you're just born with, this inner strength. It's something you have to consciously build, right? Like forging steel. We have to forge that ourselves.
Exactly. Nobody's born with a steel backbone.
But it's so tempting to take the easy route, isn't it? The path of least resistance is a terrible teacher. How do we start building that toughness when comfort is so comfortable?
It's about choosing the harder path in small ways, deliberately, pushing yourself just a little bit past comfortable regularly. And part of building that fortress is also about anticipation, thinking negatively in a structured way.
Thinking negatively, that sounds depressing.
It sounds like it, but it's actually incredibly useful. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum.
Premeditation of evils.
Yeah. Fancy term for basically thinking through what could go wrong. In business now, they call it doing a pre-mortem on a project.
Okay, why do that?
Because, as Seneca said, nothing happens to the wise man against his expectation. If you've already considered the possibility of failure, of things going sideways, it loses a lot of its sting when it actually happens. You're prepared. Mike Tyson put it more bluntly. If you're not humble, life will visit humbleness upon you. Better to anticipate it.
So it's not about being pessimistic, it's about being realistic and prepared. You're saying why set yourself up for a shock? By thinking about what could go wrong, you can maybe plan for it, or at least not be totally floored by it.
Exactly. It reduces the shock, the emotional impact, allows you to maybe pre-solve some problems or at least know how you'll react. It manages expectations. You probe for weaknesses in your plans, so those failures, which are kind of inevitable sometimes, can be correctly perceived, appropriately addressed, or simply endured with less drama.
Okay, that makes sense. It strips the power from the unexpected, which leads nicely into this idea of acquiescence, accepting what you can't change.
Precisely. It's not giving up in a weak sense. It's consenting to reality. Accepting the facts on the ground and then figuring out your next move from there. Thomas Jefferson. Apparently a terrible public speaker.
Really? Mr. Declaration of Independence?
Yeah. So he channeled his genius into writing instead. Produced the Declaration, supposedly in one draft. Edison's deafness or Helen Keller's blindness. Those weren't chosen, but accepting them forced them to develop other senses, other ways of interacting with the world, often to an extraordinary degree.
Finding a new path when the old one is blocked.
Right. Or Phil Jackson, the basketball coach. Had a hip injury, had to coach sitting down in a chair, but that limitation actually ended up, some say, increasing his aura of calm authority on the sideline. Sometimes limitations force innovation or reveal hidden strengths.
So yeah, it hurts, but anticipated temporary failure certainly hurts less than catastrophic permanent failure. Accepting what's not in your control, and then pivoting, like saying, c'est la vie,
Okay.
now what?
Exactly. Which takes us even further to Nietzsche's concept of amor fati.
Love of fate.
Yeah. Not just accepting what happens, not just bearing it, but loving it.
Yeah,
Actively embracing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly.
loving the bad stuff. That sounds extreme.
It is. Think about Thomas Edison again. His entire factory complex, years of work, burns to the ground. Total disaster. His reaction. He tells his son, go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again.
Unbelievable.
Called the wreckage rubbish, and was apparently invigorated by the chance to start fresh, build it better. That's amor fati. Or Jack Johnson, the boxer, fighting Jim Jeffries. The crowd was incredibly hostile, racist. Johnson just met it all with this relentless smile. He seemed to feed off the hatred, turning it into fuel. He loved the whole damn thing.
Wow. So the challenge to us is, what if you could face your absolute worst moments with that kind of, that smug little grin? Why choose to feel bad if you could choose to feel good, or at least energized by it? It's about seeing that there's always some good contained within the bad. That's radical.
It truly is. And that kind of mindset, that love of fate, it fuels perseverance, which is slightly different from persistence.
How so?
Persistence is maybe hammering away at one specific problem, like Edison with the filaments. Perseverance is the long game. It's sticking with it over years, decades even. It's that German word Sitzfleisch,
Sitzfleisch.
literally seat flesh. It means staying power. The ability to just plant your ass in the chair and keep going, endure the long haul. Think Odysseus, 10 years trying to get home, facing monster after monster, trial after trial.
Just keeps going.
Yeah. Beethoven put it beautifully. The barriers are not erected, which can say to aspiring talents in industry, thus far and no farther. It's that deep conviction that you will continue no matter what.
That KBO spirit, keep buggering on, as the Brits said during the war. But what fuels that? What keeps someone going for 10 years or a lifetime when things are just constantly difficult?
Often it's connecting to something bigger than yourself. A cause, a purpose. James Stockdale, highest-ranking U.S. POW in Vietnam.
Okay.
Horrific conditions. What kept him going? He wasn't focused just on his own survival. His focus was on leading his men, keeping them unified, giving them principles to live by even in prison. He gave them the watchword U.S. unity over self. His cause was his men. That purpose sustained him and them.
Wow.
Henry Rollins said something powerful about this. There is no better time than now to have a moral and civic backbone, to have a moral and civic true north. This is a tremendous opportunity for you to be heroic. Connecting to that larger purpose gives incredible strength.
So another challenge. When you face something that feels impossible, how can you maybe shift the focus? How can you make it about helping others, contributing to something larger? Stop making it harder by just thinking, I. That can unlock huge reserves of will.
Absolutely. And the final piece of strengthening the will, maybe the most profound. Meditate on your mortality.
Memento mori. Remember, you must die.
Yes. Sounds morbid, but it's incredibly life-affirming. Michel de Montaigne had a near-death experience falling off a horse. It didn't make him fearful. It made him intensely curious about life, energized him. He realized death doesn't make life pointless. It makes it urgent, precious.
Right. Knowing it ends gives it meaning.
Exactly. The diagnosis is terminal for all of us, as the saying goes. Remembering that creates real perspective and urgency. It helps you prioritize what truly matters, appreciate the moments you have, and it prepares you. Because life is a continuous series of obstacles. Behind mountains are more mountains. But if you've cultivated your will, you're ready.
And this whole process, facing the obstacle, breaking through it, it doesn't just get you past the problem. It actually creates opportunities. It helps you develop strength, wisdom, and perspective you just wouldn't get otherwise.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. We've gone through perception, action, will. If you had to boil down the core philosophy, what is it?
It's really about three things, isn't it? See things clearly for what they objectively are. That's perception.
Right.
Do what you can. Take the right action within your control. That's action. And endure and bear what you must with grace and understanding. That's the will.
See things for what they are, do what you can, endure what you must.
And the central idea, the big flip, is that the obstacle isn't just in your way. It is the way. The thing that was blocking you becomes the path forward. What impeded action now advances action. It's not just a nice idea. It really can be an operating system for life's difficulties.
So here's a final thought to leave everyone with. What obstacle in your life right now, the thing that feels insurmountable, frustrating, maybe even crushing? What if that is actually the greatest gift you've yet to unwrap? What if working through that is the very thing that will lead you to become the best version of yourself?